Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team over there on the other box. They're all in there jammed together like a clown car. We have none other than Drew.
Hey, what's going on?
We've got Patrick.
Howdy, howdy.
And we've got Brett.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez Louise. Oh, jeepers. We're here to talk about music, and the provider of said music this week is none other than Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
I brought a little band from Buffalo, New York, known by the name of the Reign of Kindo.
The Reign of Kindo. A little band, and with the album Play With Fire. We're going to play with fire. Fire. I must ask, Patrick, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Upon Drew saying nothing, and upon me plugging it into Spotify and seeing some of the related artists, I saw a band that I do enjoy, the Deer Hunter. Deer Hunter has two separate words, not the one where it's just Deer Hunter, which is a different band. And I was like, okay, so it's probably vaguely proggy, and that might be okay for me. But that was literally all I had to go on. I've never heard of them. I did not know what I was getting into.
Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
It was Drew. So I was like, okay, there's got to be something that the instrument that is powered by a man's lungs. And there's probably going to be a bass guitar somewhere in the mix. I have yet to have a non-bass guitar band from Drew.
Yes.
So otherwise, it could have been anything. Horns and basses, they could be any kind of music. So I had no clue. And it had a band name that had more than 3 words in it. So I was kind of concerned about that, because the more words you get in the name of a band, you start getting in the weeds. But seriously, I was very surprised what I got out of this entire endeavor.
E.g., and you will know us by the Trail of the Dead. Just not that they're a bad
Jesus.
band. But that being said, we none of us really knew what we were getting into. But Drew, what did we finally get into?
Well, this band, and specifically this album, I was handed to by a good buddy of mine, friend of mine by the name of Jacob. And Jacob's a drummer. He drummed for the band I was a part of for 10 years. And he is a lover of any music with some crazy drums in it. And you get a little bit of that here. There is a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of jazz influence for sure within this record and within the band. On top of it all is Joseph Secchiaroli. It's even more like Italian looking than I'm even comfortable with pronouncing correctly, so you can look that up yourself. And his vocals have just sort of a really inviting quality to me. It's really a good way to open any record to have him sort of on it. And while it's jazz, while there's some crazy drums, some really good vocals, there's some really good bass work, some great horns and stuff. There's also some like sort of a little bit of indie pop influence on this, which makes it, in my opinion, a little more accessible. I've said before on this podcast and others that into jazz music, you're sort of getting into music for musicians, and the more sort of deep, complicated weaving nature of jazz lends itself more to people who like to dive into their music a little bit more. And I feel like this actually has a bit more accessibility to it. But if you get down into it and if you search it out, there's actually a lot of cool depth to the entire thing. There's really cool instrumentation from different horns. There's string arrangements in the back. And it's, in my opinion, just a really fun album from back to front that takes a heavy jazz influence, but makes it just that little more accessible for your everyday listen, in my opinion.
Patrick, what themes and elements got your attention about this album?
It was so the immediate like initial sensation, the first things I wrote about this record was, wow, this sounds like a happier version of the Deer Hunter. Because Deer Hunter gets a little dark, and it's one of those bands where half the albums tell a story, and it's not a happy one. This is vocally, it has a lot of similarities. He has a very, I would call it a pretty voice, and not as a like it is. It's really it's not like the kind of voice you expect in a metal band or anything. Like, it is very much a pretty. This guy could sing whatever he wanted, and it would probably sound good. But it ends up being way softer and jazzier than a lot of modern prog rock. So, there's a lot of what, I thought I might be getting into with sort of the Deer Hunter comparison was I thought it was going to be kind of modern prog, and it's jazzier and poppier at the same time. It's happy, but it's exceptionally well played. Like, these guys are crazy musicians, but it also, I think, for me, it didn't have the hooks that like music does for some people, where it's like it hooks you and you just have to listen. It was one of those things where there were great things happening, but it didn't have that hook.
Brett, what themes and elements caught your attention?
This is a great pop rock jazz fusion album due to just like the striking bass work that goes along right with the piano. Like, there are some songs where it is inseparable. It's way jazzier than most people would probably get into if they were just walking face first into this, but screw them. This is about me. It has a sound that kind of sounds like the end credits to an anime series, with like the piano. It's kind of got a lot of different sounds it's going for too. And all the instruments get their time. There's some hand percussion in here that gets some time. There's some there's like all the instruments get the time, even though the bass and the piano really deserve to be front and center. They are an ensemble. Their bassist, Jeffrey Jarvis. I was wondering what his thoughts on sharing data with Google and Facebook, yes, and how his professorship at the city university was going. But no, I was very pleased with the bass work. There was some tone in there that was like, ridiculous, on time bass. Like the bass was flawless. They spent a lot of time hammering this out.
There was some Latin sounds in there too as well. Really
there was
cool.
some like stuff that you don't expect to come from where it came from. Mm-hmm. And they cover a wide range of themes too. The vocals, I don't want to put those up front because I'm not a singer, and those that, I tend to look through the vocals to get to the rest of the music. But even, with me not being a lyrics or vocals guy, it was there and done well. It complemented things and didn't distract me too much from the magic that was going on behind the microphone.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on this?
God dang it. I was waiting until the wrap up to mention the bass player. I am in love with the rhythm section, but I was also going to make a Jeff Jarvis joke. So thank you for that one. All right. But to me, some of the key tracks, one, I love all the tracks, so it's hard for me. But the hero, the saint, the tyrant, and the terrorist, to start off the record. It starts off with just a little bit of piano, the voice, and just the horns sort of punching through every now and again on the opening lick, starting off with that record breakers thing of how does the album get you in, invite you in, and say, like, this is what we're going to be doing, which I think was really cool. It was a nice touch. It sort of emphasized the parts you needed to like, say, like, hey, we're going to be going through here. And the piano work, like Brett said, was spot on. The bass work was in, like, just really fun in the back, just really driving. Everything about it was really cool. And it was one of those tracks where, again, yeah, it's still got that, like, sort of jazz licking stuff in the background, but it's still, if you're going to say, like, somebody comes up to you and like, I need some jazz, you're going to give them something with a little bit more pop sensibility, a little bit more accessibility to it. And I think this is a brilliant lead track to go into that. Dust, when we get into that, like Brett said, the hand percussion going on, the auxiliary percussion work was fantastic in this one. The cello also as an accompaniment was brilliant. And then like that, like bossa nova feeling thing. And like when you get to like 140, just smoothly going in there into like that, like old school feel to it without missing a beat to what the entire song was overall was just really, really cool to me. And just like I've said before, when a band can just switch genre, like just switch the feel of what they're doing between songs, it shows you the type of musicians you're dealing with, in my opinion. And then the song Sunshine, I'll get into that a little bit, because in my opinion, you'll listen to the song for 1 minute, at least 1 minute, on a bad day, and see if you're not smiling at least a little bit afterwards. I don't know what to do. There are songs that their sound and their lyrical content, either you listen to them when you're having like a sort of a weird, like bad day, and it's somebody understanding that you're sad. You want to not feel alone in that. Or you have the we're angry and turning like a bad day into energy. This is just very simply like, hey, we're going to spread a little joy in the world through some fun music and some fun tunes. And that to me is just the band in a nutshell. It's a simple song, simple intentions, and just really a lot of fun throughout.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks that caught your attention?
Sing When No One's Around. This is what I wrote, and I think it really like sums up kind of the whole band and this whole album. Is the interaction between the instruments is something really special. The way instruments bounce off of each other with these guys is unbelievable. The horn works good. When there's strings, the strings are good. This is very much a piano-driven album in terms of the lead instrument. Guitar is not the lead, which is, the normal, prog rock thing outside of I guess Genesis, really. It's very much piano-driven, and the way that interacts with guitar and with the horns and everything is really, really spectacular. And the one that I actually ended up liking, I hated the lyrics, but I liked the song, was I Hate Music. Because I hate the lyrics because I'm pretty sure these guys hate dubstep, and everyone who's a music snob hates dubstep because it's cheesy, but I kind of like it because it's cheesy. And it had that vibe to it, but it's probably the rockiest song on this album, like in terms of being a little harder, a little faster, a little more driving, and it felt the closest to like a normal prog rock song to me, which is kind of my the parts of this that I really liked, but because the music of that song was really, really good. But in general, just like it's one of those albums where you can just kind of let it go in the background, and it's nice. It's not distracting, but if you sit there, something's going to happen and you're going to hear it. And if you're, any sort of person who has ever played music, even a little, you're sort of like it, as Brett said, as Drew said, jazz is kind of music for musicians. This is one of those bands where if you just sit there, something's going to happen and you're going to be like, holy crap, that was amazing. The drums on this album are spectacular. That was probably my favorite bit just in general, but and I feel like that's why I think I liked I Hate Music, because it was kind of the rock song, and then it's just the drums, he is able to change complete feels mid-song, go from, something very straightforward to something very, off time and more complicated with almost, with no loss. And that is, as someone who is occasionally plays drums poorly, that is not easy to do. And he did it effortlessly, and that was really impressive to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's some great tracks. Like if there was another track that I would bring in, would be Impossible World. Like I mentioned, the Latin sounds in Impossible World was just super interesting and rad. Like it just it was cool, like the way it brought it in there, and it was just like a cool song. Brett, if you can unmute yourself, what are the
If you can hang on a second, let me get this fixed.
Yes,
because it's just the AC unit. So tiku tiku.
Tiku, tiku. So Brett, what would be some of the key tracks that caught your attention?
Help It. There were really tight drums under the really, really amazing bass and piano. The bass line and how it fits so well with the piano are enough to like keep me coming back to the track. It's a great song. It's been well crafted. It's very much an advanced piece of writing, but you don't really have to be a music major to appreciate that depth. On the other side, because there are so many different sounds on this album, I wanted to pick out I Hate Music as well. This is a song made about a view on popular music. It's sort of the Neo MTV Must Die song, because musicians have won that battle. But this is the new music should be a more important and well crafted thing, which is a losing battle for anyone who wants to try and make a more advanced type of music reach the masses. But this is a song that again, I will fight for their right to make this song, even though that I don't agree with their message. There's some amazing musicianship behind the song. There's some good musicians behind those lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's some good music. Not music, music. Not music. Though, it's catchy enough to pass off. It'd probably be improving. I should stop saying things and move on to the next segment. Because I'm just like, I'm not going anywhere, so let's just move on to the next segment. Let's go back around the horn to have some conclusive thoughts. Patrick, what would you say about this album overall?
This is a really good album that I don't love. What I'm going to guess is going to happen is I'm just going to kind of occasionally put this on, and probably in 6 months, I'm going to really, really love it. Right at this moment, I don't love it, but it's so good, you should absolutely listen to it. It's very well put together. It is exceptionally well played. Like, the musicianship on here is like in that sort of crazy, bands like Rush and Dream Theater level. Like, it's flawless musically. Mm-hmm. It is, and I might have to go peek at some of their other albums and see where they go, in terms of the sound. I think it's a little too poppy for me this week, which I know sounds totally insane, but it's, if you listen to a ton of different kinds of music, different things suit you at different days. So this is not my thing right now, but I kind of think it might be at some point in the not so distant future.
Deep down, way down in Deep 13. What? Brett, what would be your thoughts on the album overall?
Now I'm not going to compare this to a rock band with 40 years of hits and albums and fan following, but they were pretty good at making an album. Let's see what they're doing in 40 years. I really do look forward to see what these guys do in the future. This album won't be for everyone. And it likely isn't even for me. And I'm probably one of the target audiences to it. But I do find that there's gold in them there hills. It's worth digging through. Way down here in Deep 13. If you have any sort of if you like piano, the way piano sounds in rock music, even if it's not this style, even if you're just into people who bang on hammers and sing about their angsty lives, you can find some fun in this. It'll be a little bit more advanced than that, but you can grow with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this album told me that you can have a nice, interesting, complex, creative mix of music and have it actually sound pleasant to your ears. Drew, what would be your conclusive thought about this album?
Well, this album, as I said at the top, was brought to me by a good friend of mine. And when I heard it, for some reason, something in it hit me. And I was like, I just couldn't stop listening to it. We went through a couple of weeks of albums where like I was having to fight myself from listening to this record. If you are even inkling towards, in my opinion, any sort of like of jazz, if you want to try it out, or even if you don't, even if you're just a musician and you think, jazz just isn't for me or whatever, but you just enjoy good music played the right way and played well, I would give these guys a try. Their rhythm section alone is worth the cost of admission, let alone the fun horn lines you get, the cool guitars and stuff you get, the intricacies within the melody lines. The rhythm section alone can keep you going on a fun ride in this record from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good ride. It's a good set of tunes. All right, that's our thoughts on the album. We get to our main event of the evening, which is our haiku reviews, where we just kind of sum it up into a crappy poem, and y'all enjoy it. Because you know what, a podcast isn't a podcast without a cheesy bit. So our haiku reviews. Patrick, what is your haiku?
Exceptional skills, but nothing to hold on to. Like, but do not love.
Brett, what is your haiku?
A large band of cats. Well, not that kind of cat. More skill than necessary, worth a good listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good, catchy, and clean. Creativity mixed in. Accessible sounds. Drew, what is your haiku?
Jazzy tunes infused with pop sensibility. Simply fun music.
Mm-hmm. And that's our thoughts on the Reign of Kindo. Not the Reign of Kindle Fire, but the Reign of Kindo and Play with Fire. You can listen to, you can't listen to that album on the Spotify playlist, but you can listen to the 8-bit version on Spotify. And you know what? We'll throw that on the Spotify playlist just for the hell of it. Just to throw off people who may not be catching up on episodes.
All two of you.
Yes. But that's it. On that Spotify playlist will also not be the next album. Next week, so next week, we're probably going to have a guest. We don't know who. You'll find out. But just to give you something to listen to, my album, since I'm next up on the regular rotation, is going to be the Barbarettes and the album Barbarettes Volume 1. So look up for that. Doo-wop. Woo. But that's it for another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. Of course, you can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at HeyBibbard, HIBBITOIBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Check us out, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Rebelli TV, Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Subscribe, like, share. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Let me turn my air conditioner on real loud.
Konnichiwa, bitches.
Toodaloo.
Yeah, that thing.